Welcome to my channel. Support our channel by subscribing. Your subscription helps us grow and create more intriguing content like this. Now, let's dive into today's story. The countdown wasn't the only thing that ended that night. How I Caught My Wife. Cheating at the New Year's party. The winter air had a biting chill, but the grand manor where Lucas's New Year's Eve party was being held glowed with warmth and festivity. Ethan adjusted his tie as he glanced at Clara, who was seated next to him in the car. She looked stunning, her sequined dress catching the faint streetlights as they drove. Yet despite her beauty, there was a wall between them, one that had been growing taller over the past year. Their marriage of 8 years had been, at least on the surface, the kind people admired. They were the couple who hosted dinners, traveled often, and laughed in sync. But the past year had been different. Clara had grown distant, often retreating into her phone or finding reasons to stay late at work. Ethan had tried to bring it up once, but she dismissed his concerns, saying he was imagining things. Tonight, as they pulled into the manor's driveway, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Clara seemed unusually excited, her energy heightened as she stepped out of the car and greeted Lucas with a hug that lingered just a second too long. Lucas, Ethan's best friend since college, flashed his usual charming smile, but avoided Ethan's eyes. The party was in full swing, with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of jazz filling the grand hall. Ethan took a glass of champagne and scanned the room, feeling like a stranger among familiar faces. Clara was the center of attention as usual. She flitted from group to group, her laughter ringing out like a bell. Ethan watched her with a mix of admiration and unease. She seemed almost too happy tonight, her smile too wide, her movements too graceful. His discomfort deepened when he saw her talking to a man he didn't recognize. Tall, well-dressed, and confident, the man leaned in as Clara whispered something into his ear. Ethan's stomach churned. He told himself he was being paranoid, but the seed of doubt had been planted. He tried to distract himself by engaging in conversation with a few colleagues, but his eyes kept drifting back to Clara. She was now by the piano, laughing at something the man had said. Lucas approached him then, clapping him on the back. "You okay, man?" Ethan hesitated before replying. "Yeah. Just tired, I guess." Lucas's smile faltered for a split second, and Ethan caught it. "She's just having a good time. Don't overthink it," Lucas said, almost too quickly. The comment, instead of reassuring Ethan, only added to his unease. As the night wore on, Ethan couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. Clara seemed to find excuses to leave his side, always claiming she needed to check on something or speak to someone. Each time, Ethan noticed her gravitating back toward the same man. Finally, unable to bear the gnawing suspicion any longer, Ethan decided to follow her. He waited until she excused herself again and slipped out of the crowded room. Keeping a safe distance, he trailed her through the manor's labyrinthine halls. She turned a corner and entered a dimly lit study, closing the door behind her. Ethan's heart pounded as he approached the door. He hesitated for a moment, then leaned in to hear what was happening inside. Muffled voices, a low laugh, and then silence. Slowly, he turned the doorknob and pushed the door open just enough to see inside. What he saw froze him in place. Clara was standing close to the man, her hand on his chest, her face tilted up toward his. The man leaned in, and their lips met. Ethan's world shattered in that moment. His first instinct was to burst into the room and confront them, but something held him back. He stepped away from the door, his breath coming in short gasps. The study's door clicked shut as Clara and the man emerged moments later, oblivious to Ethan hiding in the shadows. He watched as they parted ways, Clara returning to the party as if nothing had happened. Ethan felt a surge of anger, but it was accompanied by a crushing sadness. The woman he thought he knew, the life they had built together, it all felt like a lie. Back in the main hall, the countdown to midnight was underway. The energy in the room was electric as guests gathered around, champagne glasses in hand, to welcome the new year. Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd, his mind racing. Should he confront Clara now in front of everyone, or wait until they were alone? As the countdown reached its final seconds, Ethan made his decision. "Clara!" he called out, his voice cutting through the jubilant cheers. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. Clara looked startled, her smile faltering. "We need to talk. Now," Ethan said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He motioned toward the center of the room, and Clara hesitated before stepping forward. Ethan turned to the crowd. "I'm sorry to interrupt the celebration, but I think the new year deserves some honesty." His voice trembled slightly but grew steadier with each word. "Clara, do you want to tell everyone where you've been tonight?" Clara's eyes widened in panic. "Ethan, please, not here," she pleaded. But it was too late. The room buzzed with murmurs as Ethan revealed what he had seen. Lucas stepped forward, trying to mediate. "Ethan, maybe we should take this outside," he suggested, but Ethan brushed him off. The party ended in chaos. Guests left in awkward silence, their festive spirit dampened by the raw confrontation. Clara tried to explain herself, her voice filled with desperation and regret, but Ethan wasn't ready to listen. He left the manor alone, the bitter chill of the night seeping into his bones as fireworks erupted in the distance. Ethan spent the next few days grappling with his emotions. Clara's attempts to reach out, calls, messages, even showing up at their home, were met with silence. He replayed the events of that night over and over, questioning everything. Could he have done something differently? Was he too blind to see the signs earlier? Or had their relationship been doomed long before that night? He spoke with his closest confidant, his sister Elena, who listened without judgment. "Ethan, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel hurt. But you need to ask yourself what you want moving forward. Do you want to try to fix this? Or is it time to let go?" In the end, Ethan chose self-respect over reconciliation. The betrayal had cut too deep, and rebuilding trust felt impossible. Clara's apologies were sincere, her tears genuine, but they couldn't erase what had happened. With a heavy heart, Ethan filed for divorce, knowing it was the right decision for his own well-being. On January 2nd, Ethan booked a solo trip to Italy, a place he had always dreamed of visiting but never had the chance. Standing at the airport, suitcase in hand, he felt a mix of sorrow and hope. The countdown had ended, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where he would learn to rediscover himself and perhaps find happiness again. As he wandered the cobblestone streets of Florence, the crisp winter air filled his lungs. He found solace in art, history, and the kindness of strangers. Slowly, he began to heal, realizing that the end of one story was just the beginning of another. Ethan's journey was not just about heartbreak, but about resilience. He learned that even in the face of betrayal, there is strength in choosing oneself. The countdown may have ended with heartbreak, but it also signaled the start of a new life. To those reading this story, Ethan's message is simple. Life doesn't always go as planned, but every ending is an opportunity for a new beginning. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey.